Hello and welcome to our podcast, How to Stay Married So Far. And without going into any detail, we tried to do one yesterday and there's such a massive row.
So far really was. The emphasis on so far is so far.
It was really funny.
Oh
so
my
it was
God.
like dot, so far, dot, so far. Anyway, that
Even
was yesterday.
Kiki heard the row, but Kiki's only notable part of the row that she heard was me, apparently, in the area just before I headed off to work going, "Where are my bloody car keys?"
And
So
then
there
he
you go.
stormed it all the way into town.
Went off to
and
work
forgot
and
his
forgot my
computer.
bloody laptop.
Loved it. Loved it. It was joyous.
So you are incredibly privileged to even have a podcast this week, because I can't stand her.
So, and welcome if you're on YouTube, of course, because you might be looking straight at us. You can hear the birds.
Yeah, the
Listen.
baby birds from the last podcast, go over to the last podcast, have left. We are an empty nest. We should talk about empty nesting one time.
Yeah.
Can you guys, can we just say at the beginning of this podcast, do pop beneath this some suggestions that you'd like for us to talk about? You know, if there's any sort of pressing relationship issues or anything that you'd like us to kind of put ourselves in your shoes, or, you know, like us to grapple with, or anything like that. That's currently an airplane. It's not my stomach. I am hungry. So Nadia, you've got a treat for us today, haven't you?
Yes, but I just wanted to say you can hear the birds, you can hear all sorts of things if you're listening on podcast, because we are actually in our own home. But we don't edit this at all. So sometimes when there's annoying things that go on, we let them just stay because we want to keep it real.
And sometimes just out of camera, Nadia's hand does that an awful lot, because she's like, you do. When you think I'm saying something that's a bit rude or a bit naughty.
Only when you talk about sex, Mark.
I know, which I want to all the time. It's terrible.
Okay, so this is a bit of a fun one, but some real
we
things.
don't do fun.
But there's some real things to think about as well. So Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, Gwyneth Paltrow. Okay, before we even get going, why does the name Gwyneth Paltrow make me sigh?
Because we think of her website Gloop, and we think about the fact that she's
don't.
told us to steam our vaginas, and because she's
Did
told
she?
us to buy stones that we can put, well, all sorts of things that end up, everything that she recommends to us costs an absolute fortune through her website. I don't know. I mean, I think the thing about her is she probably says things with the best of hearts, but you know how things translate then into an interview. And I think a lot of women think that feel that she is very smug. They feel that there's a smugness to her.
I've never steamed a vagina, not in the way that she's saying
Let's
it.
not focus too much on that. We're
Sorry.
moving on. So then, of course, when she did her divorce, she had to consciously uncouple, and people thought,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. There's all these old phrases that you sort of think, oh, that's a bit wanky.
Yeah, but because we don't know her, she might be.
I'm
so,
sure she's lovely.
She might be so genuine, but I think she does get our back something. But she does give us a good laugh often. We often talk about her on Loose Women.
Am I
because
right
she's
in
funny.
thinking, because me and Maddie are huge American Horror Story fans, am I right in thinking she's married to, or is with, or whatever? I mean, she's never with. It's not as simple as being married, is it, with her? You're kind of, she's a soulmate, or she's in the same universe as her galactic companion, the guy who's the producer of American Horror Story, isn't he? Brad something or
Brad
other.
Falchuk.
Yeah. Oh, right.
is he the producer?
Yeah. Oh, American Horror Story is great. Yeah.
Strangely, I'm looking at a picture of him now, and he really looks like Brad Pitt. And of course, she went out with Brad Pitt before. And in fact, she says it's one of the biggest regrets of her life that videos and phones weren't around, because she never did a sex tape. And
What?
Brad was very good to her. That's what she said.
Good to her.
Allegedly.
Steaming the vagina again,
And she
isn't it?
wished that she'd filmed it.
She wishes she filmed a sex tape with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Gwyneth.
That's what I've read.
Gwyneth?
That's what I've read. Whether she's been quoted wrongly or not, I don't know.
Pepper from the Avengers.
Pepper.
We should
Pepper.
maybe we should do one about sex tapes.
Okay,
There's
moving on.
about 10 of you out there.
So, Brad and Gwyneth are now married.
But
And
are they?
Of course,
But are they?
Gwyneth did it in a very different way. She got married. And actually, a few months later, she went on honeymoon with him, her kids, and Chris Martin.
What?
Because she says they're like brothers. They love each other. Of course they love each other. We
think
have a
they-
very good divorce. And Chris Martin's new bird, Dakota Johnson, 26 years his junior.
Do you know what, the actress?
Who was in
50 Shades
Shades
of Purple.
Nothingness. Yeah. And they all went on honeymoon together.
You know what's going on there.
Well,
More than
anyway.
steaming vaginas.
Now, she has a very modern marriage. And you know what? Though look, that's Mark drinking his water if
Sorry,
you sing on
sorry,
the podcast.
sorry.
It's a really annoying sound.
So I won't do it again.
Put it in a glass. She's got a very modern marriage.
Yes.
I remember reading an article a little while ago, actually, and we were saying at Loose that reading between the lines, it sounded like she didn't really get on well with his children, but we don't know.
Brad.
Because Brad's
Right.
children. Because she said, oh, you know, they're in those difficult years, teenage years, which it just might be. Now, when I first read this story, I did my usual, oh, Gwyneth, here we go again. Gwyneth's got to do everything differently. Because she actually they only live together for 4 days a week.
Right.
And then the other days, he goes home and he has his teenage children and he lives with his teenage children.
Just as teenage children.
Yes.
Oh, right. Not like their mother or anything like that. No.
And their intimacy coach.
Intimacy coach?
Yeah. Their intimacy coach
Oh, this
has
is
said
ridiculous.
to them that she thinks that this is a very grown up, very adult way to have a marriage. Again, first of all, I went, puh. But actually, when you think about it, right, when you think about teenage children and how hard that is when somebody new comes into their life and how hard it is for the person who's got the children. Because I know when we did our step parenting podcast, we got a lot of people listen to that because it is such a struggle. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. So you get 4 days together, which is great. You know, they clearly love each other, fancy each other, all of that. And then they get 3 days where they really get to spend either time with their children or time of their own. And I started thinking, it's not such a bad idea. But if we were to do it,
Yes.
I would have, because I bet Izzy would have loved it when she was little. As much as she loved me, I bet she would have loved it. If she could have had you for 3 days to herself without the new stepmommy, she would have loved it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, have you? Is that the gauntlet thrown down? What are we discussing? Sort of whether this is a.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't really posed a question. So I thought, let's think about if we were to have days apart in a week, how many would we think? Because I think 3 is quite a lot. How many do we think would be good? What would we do with that time? What do we think the benefits would be of that within a marriage? And would there be any negative sides to it? So you can start. You choose how many days and what days you do.
Well, hang
what
on.
you do.
Before going into all of that, but I mean, it's interesting because many moons ago, we had this. When we were developing all sorts of different program ideas. We had a program idea which was called "Separate to Stay Together."
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we?
And it was a remedy, and at the time there must have been some therapist or whatever. Anyway, but it kind of came out of our own experiences of the idea that by spending a bit of time apart, you can prolong and make richer, the time that you spend together. So I do think that attitudes to things like not being together in order to prolong a relationship are the preserve of people who are older. Because I think when you're younger...
Well, that's what the intimacy coach says.
Right.
It's an adult decision.
It is an adult decision. I think in your 20s... Now, the weird thing about this is that I think in your 20s, you think that when you're younger that you've got to be with the person. And that's possibly why so many... You run through so many relationships so quickly in your 20s, because there's an intensity that sort of burns bright but burns out, and then you move on. And you kind of, aren't you? I mean, not in a sort of gratuitous way, but you're testing the field. You wanted to know who your
your
partners
instinct
are.
is telling you, find a mate, set up a home, have children.
Yeah.
And then
So-
when you're older, you've done that.
Yeah, exactly. And so without wishing to use the analogy of gardening,
Why don't you want to use
I'm
that?
going to use I'm going to plough on. I don't care.
Plough on.
The idea of pruning or deadheading or culling, is a well-tested, tried and tested part of maintaining a beautiful landscape or livestock or so many walks of life. It's about cutting stuff back in order to make it come back. I mean, hair, all sorts of things if you think about it.
Good analogy.
Yeah, just an analogy god today. It's a little bit like, not having too much sex. And then, it's all these things. If you do too
The way
much...
you was going,
No, I was just trying to segue any way I could to sex. So, I think in principle, the idea is fine. I think in practice, it really begins to falter or fragment depending on what your circumstances are and where the power basis lies within that relationship. Who's instigating it? Who wants it? And I think that, say, for example, you were looking sort of feverishly and excitedly about the prospect of it, I'd start to get worried because I'd be thinking, oh, right, she wants it so much more than me and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's where it starts to kind of get a bit difficult. Am I sending you to sleep?
No.
Oh, good. You're like, right, okay, you've said your bit.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Wait to hear what you're going to say.
Now, you just mentioned about Izzy. It's interesting, and I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to talk about any of my girls and what they've said to me in private, but I do know for a fact that Izzy, over the years, has expressed that she would have liked and preferred there to have been more protected time between me and her. So when I hear the idea that Gwyneth Paltrow's partner is spending time with his children, as soon as you said that, I got a little bit of, I kind of not missed that. But when Izzy quite recently said to me, at the point that you got married and there was no real opportunity to just be with you, and it had only really been just me and her when we saw each other.
And in fact, I used to say that to you.
No, it wasn't anything to do with you. No, it was born more of me wanting to give her everything, family, me thinking mistakenly perhaps that that's all she wanted. And even though she's now 25, I kind of want to make amends for that in terms of sort of spending time on my own with her and stuff like that. So, and interestingly, we had a situation in our relationship where I had a house in Frome because I was working at the BBC in Bristol, and there were a couple of moments where Izzy came to the house there, and there was a moment of feeling like, oh my God, I could actually have a base here where I could just see Izzy, and then there's my life in London. So on some level,
and you never did that. You never even hardly stayed one night there, did you?
No,
but it was. I suppose it was the wrong time, and this is what the intimacy coach says.
I agree.
We can't really look back because at that time it's so beyond your way of thinking when you're younger, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think so. Moving along to our age, what do you think could be the benefits?
Well, one of the major concerns is you've got to be able to afford it. You've
but we're
have
talking
two places.
Fantasy here.
Yeah.
Just imagine.
So what did you ask? What are the what?
So that you
the benefits.
Yeah. Would you like to have a couple of days a week where you are not the husband, the father?
Yeah, I think we all would. I think you express it when you just simply go off and watch your programs and do your own thing. I think you are addicted to tidying your room and messing it up because actually, on a subconscious level, you're wanting to have your own space and your own time. I think the reason you are the messiest person on the planet and that you have a sort of ball of stress of incompletion to everything you do around you is because actually, I don't mean it horribly, on a level, you're wanting to kind of escape here.
But I'm asking you what you think.
No, but I'm just saying.
What would you think?
No, so
what would you do with that time?
What would I do with that time? Well, I'd probably be, I think in all households, everyone, just household chores or running a house, everyone, and I'm talking about adults, forget the kids, believes that things can be done in slightly different ways. And, maybe it's a whole podcast in itself is living together and how one runs a house as a man and a woman. Because, I have very different ideas on when things could be done, should be done. So the idea that one isn't, sort of locked into someone else's schedule is potentially the most liberating thing, because I do work at different times of the day. My activity is at different times of the day. When I want to relax, you're wanting to know what the plan is. When I'm wanting to kind of ease into something, you're wanting to fly at it. When you're wanting to ease back, I'm wanting to run at it. And so those kind of, that energy thing, which I think...
It's very stressful to live under that.
Very stressful. And I think so many relationships probably begin to think they have problems, when actually they don't have many problems at all. It's just we're all beating to a slightly different drum. And you'll get many households where it's like, no, this is the time to do this, or this is the time to do that. And I do think households that get like that, on the one hand, you need structure, but on the other hand, too much structure just leads to resentment and frustration and annoyance.
Well, the
roundabout answer is, I think there is great merit in it as an idea, but I think you can enact it without having to go and live in a different house.
So if we had the fantasy that we had a second house, like we were movie stars, or even if we were, like a lot of fairly wealthy people do, they might have a little weekend place.
Yeah.
I would want 2 nights, 1 or 2 nights in this fantasy.
Yeah.
And they would definitely wouldn't be at the weekend. I love the weekends. Definitely wouldn't be at the start of the week, because I love the start of the week. Something about the start of the week that gets me really excited. It's like the new year. I just love it. Oh, it's Monday. I love Mondays.
Yeah, I hate that.
So, and you hate that because your energy is very different on a Monday. You start to scoot from a Sunday. You start to feel
Monday
sad.
is the beginning of an enormous ascent of an enormous mountain, not standing at the top of something idyllic.
Yeah. So Sunday night would be quite a good night for you to go away.
Oh, right. So it's now become me going away rather than you heading off.
I was joking.
Yeah.
So my 2 nights where I would go away would be probably the 2 nights before I go to Loose Women.
Right.
Because I usually do 2 days a week, don't I,
Yeah.
Loose Women? It would probably be those 2 nights, if you're talking totally selfishly. Because we do work at different times. You know, I could just get into bed really early. I could watch whatever I want. I could slob. I could... if I wanted to watch total shit, I could maybe go out with a mate and see a film and then just, you know what would be nice? Stay in a hotel the night before I went to work. Like a lot of the Loose Women do, they stay in hotels because they come and they always say, oh my God, love my family, but there's nothing like just getting into a hotel and just doing whatever the hell.
Well, I always love it when I'm on location. There's that weird thing of when you get to a location hotel and you're like, this is quite nice, isn't it? I'm just going to sort of chill out and do my own thing. And often you do nothing.
But I think as well, it does... I think you're right. I think couples will feel that they've got more of a problem in the relationship than they actually have. And it is about the air to breathe, because it's not just about the person that you're with, it's also about children, because children suck the air as well, don't they?
I'm already in
They feed off you as a couple and off you as an individual. So I think it would be 1 or 2 nights a week. I think anybody in a relationship, the relationship would do really well out of that. But it's how can one get a sense of that without having to move out for 2 days a week?
See, I'm already beginning to get worried, because clearly you are almost sort of salivating with the potential fictional prospect of this, and and it goes back. No, that was the point here, and this goes back, spiraling back to my first thing, which is the original idea in the abstract is a perfect idea. In action, it becomes about. It does start to sort of throw a spotlight over the balance of appetite for the relationship. And I think you can't help but think about that. Because if you're really keener to do it than I'm keener to do it, why are you keener to do it? And that will leave me on those nights thinking, oh, right, okay.
No, it's really, really easy to answer this, because you are much, much, much more codependent than I am. So for you, if anybody wants to just turn around this way, you question, what does that person think about you? And because you're more needy than I am. I mean, that's a fact.
Right.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not me insulting you.
No, I'm not taking it as an insult. I mean, I suppose, but in a weird way.
But what's so frustrating is that you would love it, but your codependency disallows you to go, that's
there is a hardwired part
Intellectually,
there's a hardwired part of me that, even though I can write the program proposal, pitch it, sit there, sell it, believe in it, see in the abstract how it all makes sense, there's an enormous part of me deep inside my DNA that goes, this must mean there's a problem.
Doesn't mean they want an affair. Does it mean that they don't want me?
It's the thin. No, it's not that they necessarily want an affair at that point, but it's the thin end of the wedge. And then I get into that thing, which I think a lot of codependents feel, which is, you take that much space, they'll want more space. It is that the thin end of the wedge is a great phrase. So you want 2 nights, then it becomes 3 nights. Then at what point have you actually separated? And then you've become Gwyneth Paltrow, and you've consciously what? Unconsciously what? Subconsciously.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because, intellectually, you're obviously a really, really bright person. We've been married.
Thank you very much.
We've been married 17 years
and
gone through everything and stayed together. And yet you can only go with the thought of that slight separation for minutes before you're going to catastrophe. Before everything that we've got is out the window. This would be the thin edge of the wedge, but it's really because it was just in its perfect form. I just saw it all happen.
But within all relationships, the reason relationships start to go wrong or start to buckle or they start to fragment or whatever is the word I hate most, and the thing that happens in all relationships, it happens in friendships, it happens in parenting relationships, is creep. the slow creep of change.
And the
problem,
have you seen? Because the thing is with Mark, he's a master with words. He's a writer. He is so funny now. What you're going to do?
What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I actually doing?
I can see you're shaking.
Miss Know-it-all.
There's a slight shake in your body,
There's
and you're
not
going
a shake in my body. What do you mean? I know you're not going to. What's going to happen here? Are you booking into a hotel?
Do you know what the problem was with this? I started off with the question. You're saying, what would you do with those 2 days? You didn't answer it. You told me what you thought I would do, and you actually, as a proper codependent, haven't actually said. So let's park what I would do.
No, okay. So if I didn't have fear,
I didn't have fear,
and I didn't have all of that stuff,
what would you do?
I don't know. I'd probably go on the pool.
Get on the lash.
Probably go clubbing. Well, it's funny, isn't it?
What would you do?
Well, years ago, I would have worried about my ability to stay sober with that time.
Would you still?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm.
It's interesting though, isn't it? It just made me think that maybe you would. Maybe if you regularly had 2 days away, maybe it would start to play.
My sobriety is attached to, and this is something I have to really contend with. I was at an AA meeting thinking about this yesterday. My sobriety is attached to a sort of constant distraction in the domestic space. You know, I mean, or with work or whatever. So, you know, I have to be careful there because in terms of having 2 nights away or 2 nights of my own, I mean, you know, I would hopefully I'd be able to, in an ideal world, I'd be able to foster friendships and go out and see films and the problem is
read.
The problem is that when you don't drink, it does make me feel quite sad because if I think about what my heart would like to do, my heart would like to go out and not I don't mean get drunk, but I'd like to go out and kick back. And it's I find it impossible to kick back without
drink.
Well, without anything. You know, it's very hard to. I just find it very hard, and I'm not going on about that in a sad way or mawkish way, but I just think as soon as I'm offered the thought of time to do stuff for myself, I really struggle with that.
But I think this is such a good conversation then, because okay, this is if I were to say for you what I think that you. I love that you would foster that you would foster. Yeah, it's friendship. It's time with your friends without feeling guilty. You know, it's get back. You know, go to sleep.
But all those things you've described that you do. I mean, you see friends, you go out, and sometimes you stay. You know, I mean, you know, you kind of.
No, but there's something about the regularity, and again, this is just fantasy world. Of saying that I'm in a marriage 5 days a week within the home.
Hang on.
Within the home. And then for 2 days of the week of our marriage, we're not in the home.
But you just said I'm in a marriage for 5 days. So what are you for those 2 days?
You're looking in a jealous, codependent way for a problem here.
I'm not looking for a problem. But it's interesting your choice of words there. For 5 days I'm in a marriage, but for 2 days I'm not.
What you've got to take as read here, this isn't about, I'm not talking about going out and shagging loads of people, because this is literally, you're looking at me like a 15-year-old.
No,
You are.
Like a 15-year-old.
No, but you are. You go,
No,
stop it.
I'm not. Grown up. I'm just...
Stop it.
But you have to choose your words wisely. So when you say...
I don't want to choose... Why should I have to choose my words wisely? Why can't I just say what I think and what I feel?
We're into the so far bit. Okay, go on. Sorry.
You're being. I'm not. I'm just because you're not listening to what I'm saying. It's really frustrating.
Okay.
And you still haven't said what you would do with those 2 days.
I did. I just said then I'd struggle
because you've got too caught up with what you think. What the paranoid self is thinking is going to happen in these 2 days. And I think that this is a really important and interesting conversation within our relationship. Because still after 17 years, the first place to stop is distrust, not trust.
Oh, no, it's not distrust at all. I don't distrust you. We've just talked about the fact that I would relish the prospect. If I was a parent to my teenage girls, I'd see it as a really positive, productive opportunity to spend time with Izzy and Fleur. If, you know, I also recognise that there have been times in our relationship, I'm sort of playing a bit, I mean, you know, there are times in our relationship where absolutely, you know, separating in order to stay together, we have gone through so much together. Of course it's not going to be vaporised if one was to stop. I'm just saying that in terms of, I go back to the first thing I said. I think if this is a prospect for people to seriously consider, exactly what I'm articulating about my fears and worries and what have you will kick into all relationships. There's someone who's more fearful of making such a step than the other. You wouldn't be. I would be. And I've articulated. You've seen
But
some
I
of why
wish
that
that
is.
you
But it's
trusted me.
but it's not
It's
about.
annoying.
It's not actually about.
It is.
No. I disagree. I totally disagree.
But
it's
it is
not.
for me. But it is what I hear is a lack of trust. Let me just finish.
It's a lack. It's actually a lack of self-worth. It's a
Well,
lack of
but it
my
impacts
self-worth.
on-
But it's a lack of my self-worth in thinking. When I use phrases like the thin end of the wedge and all that, it's not because you're going to do anything awful. It's because I lack the confidence or the self-worth, whatever it is, without wanking on about it. But I lack, for whatever reason, something in myself that makes me think, oh no, this would make her feel stronger about me. This might make her feel even more emboldened to want to, in the time that we're together. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting in a society and a world where it's all about having, getting, keeping and wanting things. I can't remember what was there something?
And we were talking yesterday about capitalism. weren't we?
Capital.
Rachel.
Yeah, wanting. Yeah,
And the
what
way
is
of the world.
prosperity? The idea that
Prosperity.
prosperity is something that's always financial or
Financial,
material.
yeah.
Well, that actually, it is loyalty and fidelity and a more meaningful relationship just about FaceTime literally together? Of course it
No, of
isn't.
course it's
I can
not.
understand all of that. I'm not an idiot. I can understand all of that, and I trust you immeasurably. I don't trust myself to not spend that time. I need to do more work on myself to know that if I had that time to myself, I could more meaningfully occupy it with stuff that was kind to me rather than allowing it to feed into all the vulnerabilities and fears that are whirring away inside me, and that actually, even after 17 years of recovery and sobriety, can literally come right to the front of my head and
instantly.
go, you are fucking worthless, Mark.
Yeah.
And it's got that, and I know it must be hard for you because you think that's a comment on whether you. I'm not sitting here thinking you will literally do A, B, C. I'm not thinking like that, but I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, well this happens.
It's hard for me because it's wearisome. I know all of what you just said. I know where it comes from, but it is after a long time married. It's burdensome sometimes. That feeling that you're never really. And
Massively burdensome to
we are
feel
both,
like that all the time.
We are both very difficult people equally. Mostly people comment that I'm very difficult with you and you have a really hard time and I'm right gouty.
No, a lot of people say I'm very fucking annoying.
A lot of people's
which I am.
leaning is to that, and that they think I talk too much about your alcoholism, We will stand up, both of us, and put our hand up and say we are 50% right down the middle, as difficult as each other.
Didn't say that yesterday before we tried to record the podcast.
Don't bring it up again. We're both really ferocious, formidable people that believe very much that we're right. And that is exhausting in equal measure for each one of us. Sometimes I'm totally exhausted by your lack of self-worth, loathing stuff, and you are totally exhausted by my mania, by my ADHD, by my madamnish, by all of that, and I get it. So my first port of call when I talk about this fantasy world where we have a little cottage down the road and we have to do, is that we both get a bloody break in a good way because we both love each other. But marriage is hard work and it's relentless, and it's 7 days a week of fitting into what's the mood of this person today, what's going to happen today, are we going to get through today without one of us being really pissed off with the other one, how many times are we going to misunderstand what the other one has said, because that's the reality of marriage. Yes, we have a great marriage, yes, we love each other, yes, we like each other, but we still go through all those things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like most people that are married.
But isn't that just marriage?
Yeah, but I think going back to Gwyneth Paltrow and the
So
intimacy
what you're saying
coaches,
is that if you've got the luxury to be able to do it, why not do it?
But yeah, and once you've got past that age in your life where you are just hunting, instinctively for a mate and to have children and to build a home, and you get to the other part of your life where you can go, wow, I'm really stable in this. We're sticking together. What happened? This is the way I see it. We're together till the end of our days, whatever happened. My first port of call isn't like, oh, this is going to break us up.
So we're going to knock so far off.
My port of call is, wow, this could be really interesting for the rest of our relationship. We would just come at it from completely different angles.
You see, it's funny. I mean, the part of it that holds the most allure for me is a retrospective thing, and it's given some of the stuff that I've gone through as a father to all my daughters. It would have been I wish I'd, in retrospect, enacted a bit of this when in Frome.
I do.
I wish that I remember Izzy coming up and knocking at the door, and I have some regrets. I have a lot of regrets about not protecting time with my eldest girls.
That was your codependency.
Well, it was my codependency. It was also my addiction issues, which and the sadness that I have now is that obviously I want to make that up with time with them, and of course they're, as they should be, and as I'm proud as punch of both of them, they're busy getting on with their lives. So there's little opportunity for that now. But I mean,
so Gwyneth. So actually, though, when we were reading this the other day,
I think it's lovely for Brad.
I actually think it's an incredible idea, and I think for people that don't have two homes, because let's face it, not many of us do. What is the way to do that when you have stepchildren? It is and you have your children, and then you go into a second marriage. It is to totally set time aside for them. I mean, I felt it a lot. I have to say, when Izzy was growing up, I did feel it, but you just couldn't. You just weren't in the right place. We do things at the age that we're at.
If I'm honest, and I would say this to Izzy in group, I think I had, and people don't really talk about this, especially when you're the father from a split home and you feel like you were essentially the cause of that due to your, infidelity or whatever it was. I think I always, at that young age, I was always fearful that I would let her down, or that she would
that
judge.
You weren't enough.
That I wasn't enough, that I was a letdown, that I was disappointment. And in a weird way, having this huge family around me was a sort of way of hiding myself from her.
Absolutely.
From her.
Absolutely. It was.
And I regret that.
And the
I
thing
regret
is,
all of that.
Children pick up on that. They're not stupid. And the thing is, I know that it was coming
Sorry,
from
I'm struggling with the light on my camera. Sorry.
I know it was coming from a place of fear, of you not thinking that you were up to it. And it also came from a place of, I'm going to give her exactly what I wanted, which was a mum and a dad and a family and a big, loud, happy family home, because at that time my nephews were here a lot, and it was just like the idyll in lots of ways, wasn't it? Lots of family, big meals. But you both of you weren't really from that. So there's good and bad out of it, though. You can't punish yourself, because a lot of it she loved.
And
there's no perfect solution.
No, a lot of it she loved, but in a very tender moment she said, "Dad, why did you assume I only wanted another family? I just wanted you."
Yeah.
So, I look at this and I think, I see the teenage children in it. I'm not thinking of me in this as a prospect. I'm thinking of my children again. I mean, so, I think of myself, it's sad really, isn't it? Because if I think of myself in this, I'm literally not interested in what the benefits to me are.
Well, you got to work on that.
Quite horribly so. Like, just for fuck's sake, what the fuck? What do you need? What? I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't. This is the weird thing. It's like, this is the point at which it's not about any mistrust. It's like, if you need it, okay, then do it. I'll be sad, but do it for you. I don't fucking want it.
Listen, this was set up as a bit of a fun. This was
heartbroken.
This was set up as a bit of a fun. What would we do with the fantasy if we had another home? What is wrong with you? Please, you know what I would love in the comments below this? I would love it if any of you would have this conversation with your partner and just give us a couple of lines on how imbalanced the responses were. Was one ready to walk out and throw themselves off a bridge?
My entire day's been thrown into flux. Tedious.
You're such an idiot.
Tedious being me.
It really is.
Anyway, I think we should stop now.
I said to you, let's just have a bit of fun with this.
It was fun for a moment, wasn't it?
What's wrong? You need to see the shrink again. I swear to God.
I do.
You do. Right, straight after this.
My face is burning.
Straight after this podcast, you are phoning your shrink. I'm telling you now. Or your homework tonight is to sit and bloody listen to this podcast.
So when are you booking yourself out for 2 days a week?
Huh?
When are you going to start booking yourself out for 2 days a week?
You're such an idiot.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
literally an idiot.
do subscribe and like our podcast.
I wouldn't if I was them.
Oh, fuck off. Anyway, hopefully soon we're going to do a podcast about sex.
Just another note, actually, because I noticed quite a few people comment on the fact that we do, either I will mention Mark's alcoholism or Mark will mention it. And people think
Why don't people like it?
I think because people think that, I've read quite a few comments with people say, why didn't she just let him forget it and da-da-da. But it's not really like that. Being in recovery isn't about,
No, I understand.
in fact, I think Mark would probably say that I maybe don't talk about it enough with him, because alcohol is such a massive thing in our society, and it is attached to every single event in our lives in Britain. It really, really is, isn't it? Everything.
Well, I shared on our vlog, have a look at our vlog, there was a moment, it was literally 20 seconds and it resonated with a number of people, I think. I haven't had a chance to go through all the comments yet. But I just shared, because I bought 3 bottles of champagne for your mum's birthday, and I really, really, really was struggling on Saturday, and I was really, really trying to be of service to the whole situation. And I found that moment when everyone was chinking so hard. So hard in a way that no, but there's no one should feel guilty about it. But when everyone was doing it, and there was we were saying a little bit for the girls, I was like, I was in absolute getting the glasses, and it was just no one was doing anything else. And that's why I went on the camera and I filmed it. I was just like, I had to distract myself. But yeah, it's funny. I mean, so Nadia's point is a salient one, in that, you know, in something as innocuous as that, countless fucking things were going on for me in that moment, which is why I had to film you all chinging. It was so hard because I didn't want to get drunk. I just wanted to drink. I just wanted to be able to be part of it, a bit more part of it. Anyway.
So basically, the thing is with anybody in recovery, and a lot of people follow us that are in recovery as well, and there isn't a lot spoken about it. So we will always include it. It will always come up where it comes up in these podcasts or wherever, because it is a part of our lives on a daily basis. And it's recovery for Mark is something that he has to work on every single day. And I have huge admiration for him every single day. Having done 100 days sober this year, it's extraordinary how it is in everything that we do. And that people are, oh, you're not drinking, oh, you're not drinking. So I apologise if some people find that we talk about it too much, but we aren't sorry, and we will continue to.
We're a family in recovery,
it's
sorry.
Part of our lives, yeah.
Anyway, do hit the like or not. If you don't, if you do, do. And on iTunes, I love going to iTunes and seeing all those little stars. So put stars. Do the
but
stars.
only if you like it.
Only if you like it. If you don't like it. Well, anyway, she's moving out.
We're probably going to go and have a round now.
I'm going to go and book my shrink.